Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Untamed Land, Like Creatures Seeking Their Own Forms, out October 8th on Napalm Records. This album has 5 tracks, 45 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American atmospheric black metal band, or at least that's where I'm calling it. This album is impossible to define under one single genre as far as the structure goes, but more specifically as far as the soundscape is concerned. So if you decide to get into this album, get ready. It is a very diverse, is a very eclectic sounding album with an incredible construction, and let's start there. The construction of this record is unstoppable. There's no pauses, there's no breaks, just a continuous record from the time you press play until it finishes. So it allows the record to feel more like one song that's divided into 5 different chapters versus 5 songs that work well together and then create the full picture of the record. I love the fluidity. I love the fact that the songs continue merging from one into another, taking some pieces, some elements, navigating them to, pushing them through from one song to the next, allowing that listening experience to be completely uninterrupted all the way through across 45 minutes of incredible sound, of an incredible experience. The structure of this album is perfect for a record that's this diverse. If you have stops and goes, if you have breaks at the end of each song, the album is going to feel very chopped because there's no sense of continuity, because the songs have a sense of individuality, and because of that, you don't really feel like you would be going on a journey throughout the record. But when you allow a song to end on the same note that the next one starts, that journey never ends. You're able to be a little bit more diverse, you're able to be very eclectic without breaking the record up, with offering the journey, with offering a smooth ride from top all the way to the bottom. Once you get into that diverse soundscape, like I said, I don't think you can define this record under one umbrella. You're going to get so many different elements. You're going to get folk, you're going to get black metal, you're going to get atmospheric black metal, you're going to get black and roll, and you're also going to get spaghetti western vibe throughout the whole record. Perhaps the best way for me to define the overall experience of listening to this album and the sound that it holds is if you went to watch a spaghetti western, but it's black metal themed, and that's the soundtrack. And that's the movie score. That's perhaps the best way to define the experience of listening to this album, because it really feels like you're listening to a movie score. From the opening track to the closing track and everything that's happening in between, all the ebbs and flows, all the climaxes that exist, all the pauses, all the breaks, everything about this record is really built to be a movie score, a western spaghetti movie score. That's the soundtrack that you're going to get. That's the sound experience that this album holds. A lot of different layers, a lot of different instruments. Keyboards, organs, fiddle, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums, different styles of drumming. There's just so many things coming at the listener, song in and song out. Within the songs themselves, the diversity is just off the roof. It's just incredible. The amount of different perceptions that one single song can give you from beginning to end really has your head spinning as you're listening to this album. There's just a lot for the listener to process, there's a lot for the listener to digest, but the experience of navigating it through is smooth as silk. Now, this is not a record that also lives off of one single element. I cannot really point out the drums or the guitars or the keys in general, the orchestrations, as the element that drives the experience, that's the motor of this record. This album really lives off of the combination of everything that it has. There's not one that's more important than the others. They're all important as the collective. Having said that, some of the guitar tones really bring a little bit of the black metal into the forefront. Without the grittiness that the guitars have, without the darkness that the guitars have, this album would lose a little bit of that black metal or that blackened vibe that it has, and that to me is really important for all of the other diversity, either be folk influences or spaghetti western influences, to really merge and work well under one single umbrella. Same could be said for the vocals. The vocals are consistent as far as that harshness, as far as that darkness that's coming into the forefront, that really unifies or brings that black metal vibe into the big picture, bringing the guitars along for the ride, working really well together. Those two elements really become at least a little bit of the glue that holds everything together, that allows the album to have diversity but still feel a little bit compact at times. And let's not forget also the other side of the vocals, which is the choirs, the clean vocals that create an incredible ambiance, create an incredible atmosphere throughout the record, really giving a sense of a cinematic approach in terms of how these songs are constructed and how these songs are delivered. I feel like this is an album that's going to resonate with a lot of fans, not necessarily fans of black metal, but fans of dark and atmospheric music for sure. If you're more of a traditionalist and you want your black metal to be delivered in a certain format, this album is going to piss you off, because you're going to say to yourself, why does it have this Clint Eastwood Western vibe? Why does it feel that way? Why does it sound that way? This doesn't belong here. I think being creative and pushing your sound into this extreme metal arena allows you to do whatever it is that you want to do. I don't care if it has that Western spaghetti vibe. I don't care if it has folk elements mixed in. At the end of the day, I'm looking for the execution, and the execution on this record is flawless, both musically and from a construction perspective. But I do understand that this is not an album for everybody, because it's so outside the box. It's so out there in an area that perhaps not many bands or any band at all has ever gone to or tried to create an album that sounds this way, that feels this way, that has that cinematic movie score. And when you pick a movie, you pick spaghetti western, it just feels very outlandish to me at first glance. But the more I listen to the album, the more I fell in love with it. But then again, I'm a big Western fan, so this record is just perfect for me. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I picked 3 tracks that haven't been released yet, and I want to start off with Once Upon a Time in Kenoma, a song that opens up the record, and it has that Western vibe even in the name of the song. So it starts off almost like a music box that opens up, and you get that music box melody coming through. I really enjoy that. Then it starts to grow, it starts to morph, and you start to feel that Western movie score really coming to life. The cinematic style of the track really becomes important, and it's a song that feels like the opening to a movie. It's the opening to the album, and it could be an opening to a movie. It just has all the condiments, it has all the right elements in the right places at the right times. It has some melody, it has some brightness, it also has some darkness, some sad undertones. Perhaps that's the best way to describe it instead of darkness. Some sad undertones. And then it closes off with that music box coming in again for those last notes as it's winding down, as it's losing its steam. And then as it loses its steam, it starts to build into the next song, which is A Nameless Shape. So this is the sense of progression that this album has. The next track, The Heavenly Coil, this is an incredible song. 15 minutes and change is a tremendous track, not just in terms of the length, but in terms of what it has to offer. It starts off with an organ that sets a little bit of a dark tone to the track. You see that dark tone then coming in also vocally, not just musically, but then coming in also vocally. The guitars bring in a lot of darkness. They bring in that grit, that black metal grit. The orchestrations come on top. They add a dark atmosphere to the way the whole song feels. The vocals really pack that atmosphere, they pack that sound, and they become part of those two worlds, really navigating in between of what the guitars are doing and what the orchestrations are doing. And the song then becomes so dynamic. You feel like it's going in one direction, and perhaps it's going to stay in that pocket for the duration, but it's 15 minutes, so you're going to have to do something. And it does a lot. The song starts to morph, it starts to change. The keyboards come in, they feel like a horror movie out of the sudden. Then you're going to get an acoustic Western stretch that just feels so natural to the way this song comes together, but at the same time it felt like it didn't belong there at all up until that point. And then it starts to move again back into a movie score, adding a little bit of black and roll, a more pure black metal rock and roll sound comes into the forefront, more direct, more punchy. Then the keys come back in again. Then it starts to go back again to the way it started, with a more black metal, traditional black metal sound that drives the song. Then it goes again back into the closing Western vibe, now with the folky element added into it. I mean, this is a song that never stops changing, and when you feel comfortable with one element, it changes into something else. But at the same time, when you reach the end of it, it all felt natural, it all felt continuous. Then last but not least, Achamōth. This is the closing track on the record, instrumental track that closes off the same way as Once Upon a Time in Kenoma was an instrumental track. This one is also an instrumental track. So you have 2 instrumental tracks, one opening and one closing. Very atmospheric, perhaps the most pure atmospheric song of the whole record. It still keeps that spaghetti western vibe alive, perhaps not as much in the forefront as some other songs. It's a little bit more of a layer, it's a little bit more hidden. The female vocals that come in, they don't come in as vocals, they come in as a humming, so the song still feels instrumental even though there are some vocals present in it. I love that humming because it creates ambiance. It's not about having a voice in there. It's using the voice as an instrument in order to create atmosphere, in order to create that vibe that the track has. Really well constructed, the perfect song because it's so simmered, it's so paused, it's so calm. It really feels like the credits are rolling and the movie is over. This is it. Untamed Land, like creatures seeking their own forms, out October 8th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.